Welcome to another episode of Ask Dubey Olympic Edition. This show is a presentation of Bet365. Whatever the bet is, it's never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365. Must be 19 or older. Well, we might as well dive right into a crazy Canada game. And holy smokes, what a game. Canada comes out flying, looks great. And these are the exact games, the nightmare scenarios in international hockey where you're dominating as the game went on. You're just, Canada's working. They're obviously the better team. They're controlling the puck, but they can't really get too much around the Czech goal. They can't get a ton of great looks. And then you have Suzuki hitting the post in a wide open net and to go up 3-2. And same thing in the third. They're kind of pressing. They're not really getting a bunch of pressure, although they have the puck. And this is just what can happen in these games. It doesn't take much, and it's just one breakdown. Now, we're just figuring this out now, but that breakdown, this could have made things a whole lot more interesting here with 6 players on the ice for the Czech Republic. And it's pretty crazy that this didn't get picked up on. And fortunately, it's not something that we're going to be talking about. It's something that we can laugh about because they got a huge tip from Suzuki. I was getting frustrated myself watching Canada with how good these guys are, and I know it's extremely difficult, but and it's exactly what the Czechs were trying to do after they went up 3-2, was constantly making the Canadians dump the puck and dump the puck and dump the puck, and I would have loved to see them attempt it a couple times, and you got to be careful because that's obviously what they're trying to do is turn pucks over there, but the Czechs wanted them to dump the puck, and they were having a tough time getting anything and just locking it down, and so that was such a huge goal. And we got to give credit where credit was due to Jordan Binnington, who's obviously been talked about. And when we talked about why he's there, we talk about making big saves at big times. And what does he do? He comes up with a breakaway save with a minute left in the third period, which would have been an absolute heartbreaker. And then he comes up with a huge save in overtime to set up the Mitch Marner overtime goal. And just crazy excitement for a quarterfinal. Huge win for Canada. With that, let's jump into the questions. All right, first question comes from Boss AI Art. Dubey, we always hear about goalies battling when the team plays poorly in front of them. But be honest, can you tell in the first 5 minutes of a game if your D-core just doesn't have it that night? And if you do sense that chaos early, do you actually change your technical approach? Example, play deeper in the net, freeze the puck more often to compensate, or do you have to stubbornly stick to your game regardless? That's a good question. A lot to that question. So when we talk about a goalie battling, it's when things do get chaotic in the net. It's battling is an energy thing. It's a body language thing. It's an effort thing. And so sometimes, from a goalie's perspective, when maybe things are chaotic in front or not as smooth, or maybe even as the goalie, you don't feel like you're perfect at that time. It's battling through. It's giving that extra energy, the intensity, even if it's not the cleanest, prettiest thing in the world. When things are crazy in front of you, the guys are feeling crazy. They look back there and you're going to war for them. You're diving around. You're doing whatever you have. Your energy is high. Also when the chaos happens, being able to be the calm guy back there and control rebounds, which is kind of a separate thing. But, from the battling perspective, it's just guys seeing you go to war, just like guys flying around blocking shots when things are chaotic. That's a goalie battling, and that's somebody that the guys will play for. And we talked a lot about Calvin Pickard and how he battles, and we know he's not the prettiest all the time on how he stops pucks, but one thing last year that was really big in the playoffs, which they needed a guy to just go in there and battle and just stop the puck, because things were kind of off the rails for the first couple games, and it was chaotic, and Skinner didn't look confident, and he didn't have any help in front of him, but the whole team didn't look confident, and they needed a guy to just go in there and battle, and they got that from Calvin Pickard. Moving on to the next part of the question, can you tell in the first 5 minutes? Yeah, of course you can tell in the first 5 minutes, but that's part of your job as a goalie. It doesn't change technically. I think maybe your approach when you talk about freezing pucks, yes, I think it's good to freeze a lot of pucks if things get chaotic, especially in road games, to just calm things down and slow the pace down. Especially you go into a place like Colorado in the first 10 minutes, you want to hold on to everything and just slow the game down as much as you can. But again, so you take the battling, but if your guys are chaotic in front of you and things are crazy, if you can make a couple big saves and make them look calm and hold on to some rebounds, that can give everybody an opportunity to take a deep breath and relax on the bench and get to their game. And all of these things are part of being a goalie. It's part of being a great goalie. It's part of being a leader on that team, is being able to come up with a big save, be calm, come up with a good rebound control, let your guys take a breath and get back in the game when things seem a little crazy, whether that's at the start of the game or the middle or trying to cling to a 1-goal lead at the end of a game. They're all opportunities for you to both battle and be the calm guy. As my son likes to say when I talk to him about this, he's a goalie. He says, I'm the chill guy. And I said, yes, you're the chill guy to calm things down out there. Okay, next question from K. Bodez. Do the Oilers need a big shakeup at the deadline, like trading one of the big guns for help elsewhere? I'm going to go with no. I don't think a big shakeup. I think this is a team that has been to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row. A couple wins away both times, 1 win away and then 2 wins away. This is a team that knows they can win. They've got the experience to win. They've got 2 of the best players on the planet, and they do. This is a team that tinkers. I don't think having a big crazy shakeup. They're when you bring the salary cap into things, that obviously makes it more difficult when you talk about trading for another big piece. Salaries have to line up, all of that kind of stuff, and then what are you getting when you bring somebody else big in? Do they fit in with the team? I think the Oilers' top players fit in the way they fit in, the way they have. They're some of the best on the planet, and they do their thing most of the time. And when the Oilers can be more successful is when they get that secondary scoring, that secondary punch, those defensive efforts through the lineup. And so if you can bring some players in to help with that, to help with a little bit of secondary scoring, to take some pressure off of the big boys, and then also just players that can defend. And when I say defend, that doesn't mean standing in their end blocking shots. It also means playing in the other end, defending through the neutral zone, not having to play defense all the time. And we saw last year that when the Oilers got this, and they needed it at times in this playoffs, when they got that secondary scoring, that's how they got all the way to the end. And so I think you can bring somebody in. I really don't see a big splash happening for the Oilers. But I mean, I guess you never know, but my opinion would be that they won't. And this is a team that maybe you tinker and you go pick somebody up, some veteran guys that have certain roles that you can bring in, that are going to help this team try to go one more here. All right. Next question from Carloma. Let's go with that. Dubey, you already spoke about your Spengler Cup experience, but if you could please talk a bit more about your experience playing for Canada internationally, and what unique challenges do goaltenders face in these type of tournaments? Yeah, I've played in quite a few different international tournaments with Canada, starting with under 18s, both under 18 World Championships, then the World Juniors, Spengler, which I talked about, and then 4 World Championships as well. Spengler again. So I've got lots of experience with that stuff with Canada, and they're all very different tournaments. One thing that was unique when I grew up, I just thought that Canada didn't lose in international events. I really didn't. I thought we just went over and we steamrolled everybody that we played, and we were that much better than everybody else, and that's just how it went. And so we did have a bit of an eye opener in my first under 18 World Championships. We finished 4th. And we went over. Then it wasn't, we didn't get dominated or anything. We had an unlucky game in the semifinals, and then we got smoked in the 3rd place game. But just that was kind of my first seeing of like, whoa, these other countries can play too. And then as my experience as you go and how these games work, as you realize, you saw the game today against Czechia, that they can kind of go one in two ways. We know in this situation that most games that you enter as Canada, you're going to be the favorite. Just depends on by how much. And that doesn't mean in a hockey game that you're going to necessarily go out and smoke a team. I think you can see, you look at the first game against Czech, it either goes one way where, yes, you end up smoking the team because eventually it's just you chip away and those goals come in. As soon as you get that kind of 2-goal lead, then things just continue to go. Or they're able to hang around, even get a lead like Czech did today. And then it just becomes difficult because you almost change your game a little bit and you're pressing a little bit. Example, we had a game at World Championships against Slovenia, and I remember I was playing the game, and I read in the morning about how Canada had 675,000 youth hockey players or something, or registered hockey players, and Slovenia had 675 registered hockey players or something like that. It was a crazy number, and then we went into the game at night, and we were tied 2-2, and we went to overtime with Slovenia. We had a good team. We had Stamkos and Jamie Benn. I mean, we had our whole team. We were stacked. Go down the list, and we're going to overtime with Slovenia. And I just kept thinking to myself, I'm going to be the guy on record that lost to Slovenia. I'm going to be the guy on record that lost to Slovenia. And fortunately, Dan Hamhuis sent a 3-line saucer pass to Stamkos for a breakaway to finish the game. But those games can happen that way. So it's just understanding that sometimes these games aren't the blowouts that you expect them, and they're single games. Every game's important. You know, that's, again, I mentioned talking about Jordan Binnington and how he comes up with these big saves and why they want him in the net, because that's what you need in these games sometimes is you might be dominating, but these teams will get chances, and you're going to end up in games like this, and you just need the right save at the right time. And that's kind of the unique challenge of playing for Canada. And also, lastly, is that the expectations of playing for Canada. So if you go into a game, for example, Lucas Dostal today, you're not expected to win. So it's kind of a win-win for you. You can go out there, you can battle, you know you're going to get 40 shots. If you don't win the game, nobody cares, because other than you wanted to win, nobody cares because you weren't expected to win. When you go out for Canada, everybody expects you to win. So the pressure is insane. And if you don't win, it is a massive disappointment. And so it's just a different, unique challenge playing for Canada, where the expectations are gold or nothing to go out there and to be able to perform. All right, next question from BTG91. How hard is it for the players returning from the Winter Games to settle back into the NHL? Well, there's two sides of that. There's the players who haven't played in the Olympics and the players who have. So I don't have experience of coming back from playing in the Olympics. I think the challenge for those guys would be getting some rest physically, but also, going and having a break too, having a few beers to get a few days of partying or some relaxation with the family, whatever it is, and almost be able to check out. Everybody else has had 10 days to check out and take that mental reset and come back. These guys have had to even up their level of mental focus over there. So I think for those guys, it's important to take a little bit and try to just have that break, get your mind off of hockey for a little bit so that they're ready for this stretch run here. Because they're obviously, all the players over there are the most important players on their respective teams. For the other guys, it is difficult. It's a long break. 2 weeks is a long time. Again, it's amazing because you get to go. I can't remember where I went on the last Olympics. I think I went to Palm Desert. But either way, it's an amazing time. The season can get long, especially this January, February time, kind of the dog days. You're right in the middle of the schedule. Season starts feeling long. It's cold outside. You get to go somewhere for 7, 8, 9 days. Can really rejuvenate you and refresh you. But it is tough to get back on the ice and start to get going again. Unfortunately, I think you get, 5 or 6 days of practice leading up to when the games start, because there's probably, it's like anything coming back, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of a little bit of rust, a little bit of getting that feeling back. But you play so much and you're in the middle of the season that once you get going partway through that first period, you're kind of just back in the mix and back in the swing of things. And it feels like there was no time missed at all. So it is important to focus on getting ready for that. But again, the two sides of Olympic guys need to take a little bit of time off. The other guys need to start to ramp up. Everybody meets in the middle and gets ready for the stretch run here. All right, that's it for another episode of Ask Dubey. Hopefully when we talk again next week, we're talking about a Canadian gold medal and how great the semis and the finals were. But we will see. Make sure you submit your questions in to the Nation Network on any of their social media, Oilers Nation, hashtag Ask Dubey, or drop it in the comment section below here. Please keep the questions coming. Makes it a whole lot easier, a whole lot more fun when we got lots of questions in. We can pick and choose and add some to the following weeks. I love answering you guys' questions, so keep them coming. This segment brought to you by our friends at Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Only the finest tasting meat products are in the Wilhauk name, made from 100% pure Alberta beef. Wilhauk Beef Jerky is aged, seasoned, marinated, and smoked to savory perfection. It is so good. Wilhauk Beef Jerky gladly fills orders of any size. Find their beef jerky, sausage, and other products exclusively out of their Leduc location, or you can order online. Get your jerky on. For more info, go to wilhaukbeefjerky.com.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.